want to talk about the people who just can't accept the reality that we're being visited by extraterrestrials. These people, I've been talking to them a lot recently. It seems like I always talk about them. I have to talk about it. It seems like I feel compelled to discuss some of the nonsensical things they say. Their attacks against scientists who want to who want to understand the mystery of the UFO problem. And I'm not talking about, I don't want to talk about the debunkers in general. I want to talk about their audience. Like, who are the people that need to, what kind of people out there need to be told that UFOs and it's not extra, like, who needs to be told this, like, on a regular basis? What kind of person out there needs to, needs to be reassured by these professional UFO debunkers, people who spend their lives trying to throw, scientists and other people who are trying to get to the bottom of the mystery under the bus? Who are these people? Like, I want to know what kind of people, what kind of person needs to hear constantly that there's no such thing as extraterrestrial visitation. What do you think?
I mean, obviously, to me, it's the main sort of person that would want that sort of stuff would probably be a person that is scared of aliens, and another sort of person would probably be the sort of person that has had some sort of bad experience or just has gotten really annoyed by alien enthusiasts like us, me, you, just people that have had a bad experience with alien enthusiasts probably just want to hear, like, man, I hope that those I want to believers I hope their hopes get dashed,
Yeah. I don't know. I think that the audience that exists for like I don't know. I think there's actually some academics, that actually need to hear this. They need to be reassured by members of the scientific press that this thing isn't real, and that they need to confirm their long established convictions that were pumped into their brains when they were youngsters, that the whole notion of extraterrestrial visitation is nonsense, when really it's not. Like, again, I could, as I told you, the stories. I mean, I told you them, your whole life. So, like, you're someone who has grown up basically knowing the truth, being exposed to the reality that I see, the reality that I understand. So you will be okay with that. I mean, you're not someone who's afraid of this, because you've been you're conditioned a different way. You were conditioned to actually, now, it wasn't like you didn't want to, it wasn't like some subject that you want to talk about all the time, but in a way, I was able to impart upon you my beliefs. And I believe for a lot of people, though, that's the opposite, because all they had was what they heard from the mainstream media and the mainstream press and how it was treated by them. And, oh yeah, it's all silly. And people who say this, or they're liars, or they're crazy, but it's not crazy. It's real. But there's these people who can't accept that. And now that the table is turned over the last few years, with the Pentagon actually coming clean and stating, well, yeah, there's objects out there we can't explain. Here's some images that we captured. We don't know what these things are. And they need people out there. They need debunkers out there to tell them, oh, don't worry, it's not extraterrestrial. Even though those debunkers really don't have answers. They don't. So what drives these people? I believe, like, they live in complete absolute fear. That's what it is. Their lives are like, they're completely, like, the whole idea, because it's beyond control. They know that there's no one that could protect them from this. No government, no police, none of that would matter when it comes to alien visitors, because nobody in the human race is going to be able to stop whatever they're going to do to you. And I think they just can't deal with this, and they need reassurance. And that's why there's an audience for this. They need to be told this pretend reality that it's not happening. And in this way, they could breathe a sigh of relief and, have a nice, easy sleep at night. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. That's kind of a little aggressive toward them, I feel, but
I'm not being. I said it in a nice way,
I
didn't I?
um
I mean, I thought I was being nice about it.
hey, listen, the way I see it personally, a person's own worldview, how they view the world, is an artistic construction that every individual needs to perfect for their own self. And, if your worldview just does not include aliens or feel that, that it doesn't mix well with your general point of view of the world, then so be it. A person doesn't have to believe in aliens if they don't want to.
So basically, what you're saying, it's okay to live in a fantasy world to keep that.
Now, hold on now.
Well,
Listen,
no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, because as far as I'm concerned, it's a
let me tell you
reality.
this. What
It's a
sort of
reality. I mean,
what
so
isn't a fantasy world?
well,
What
isn't
isn't
it?
a
I
fantasy
mean,
world?
okay, a fantasy world would be like, okay,
No, what isn't a fantasy world?
well, no, I'm just saying in this in the reality that we are in right now. This is reality. Like
But
right
listen,
now. Look
you
at
can look
me.
at reality around
Watch
you
me.
right now,
I'm looking at reality. This is
right?
reality.
Yeah,
Within
but
the
you still do it through a
within
mental
within
filter.
this reality that I'm looking at right now. Look at me. I'm looking at
I
reality.
know, I
That's
see
real,
ya.
right? Within that reality that I'm looking at right now, somewhere out there, right, there are beings. There are beings who are unearthly, right? They're flying around. They're operating in as far this is the tip of the iceberg, but they're operating machinery that is beyond our comprehension and beyond our technical comprehension at this point. I would have to venture to say. I'm not, again. I've seen one of these craft. I've encountered one of these beings. They're not human, so they're here as far as I'm concerned, and so I have to accept the 75 years worth plus of evidence that's accumulated over all this time. As you know, there's just no denying it. So but there are people out there, Tad, who are denying it. They cannot
Yeah.
deal with this, and they need to hear, and there's an audience, obviously, because there's people I've been talking about them recently. They print articles in science journals, and they try to make a fool out of any other scientist that is looking into this or trying to study this, because, and I can't, I'm trying to wonder, like, why are they doing this? Oh, because there's obviously some people out there that need to hear this. So why do they need to hear this? I guess that's the question here. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. It's just the reality. There must be an audience for this nonsense. It's nonsense.
Well, now, you're right. I personally agree with you. I think aliens exist 100%. Right?
And you think they're here?
they're here? Yeah.
Okay.
I think that they probably show up. I think that believe a lot of things about aliens. But if a person doesn't believe in aliens, I don't necessarily think. Yeah, they probably are actively, admittably, openly ignoring the years worth of evidence, as you mentioned, and the scientific statistical likelihood of there being aliens. But as I mentioned, if a person's worldview, if a person needs that of their worldview, then I am not one to judge. There are certain things in this life, things which are unknowable, which are truly unknowable. You got to let individual people, select their beliefs regarding them and respect that. If it's something that's truly unknowable, and that goes for not even aliens. That goes for God, the meaning of life, what's after death.
My biggest complaint, it's not, my biggest complaint is not the audience that these debunkers are trying to reach and trying to entertain and trying to calm down with their articles. My problem with the debunkers themselves is the way they attack, the arrogance they display in their attacks against certain people, certain other scientists that have said, you know what, I don't care about the stigma. I don't care that I'm going to get attacked, but I'm going to look into this anyway. But then they get attacked. That's the part I don't. That's the part I get, but I guess that's the collateral damage of the whole thing. And I guess there are just some people out there. They're just not ready to start talking about this yet. They need to have this. They need to be told, hey, don't worry, it's okay, it's all fake. Don't worry, it's not real. You can go to bed now and tuck you in. And good night.
I necessarily think.
I think that's what's necessary. I think it's necessary.
Probably just as much so that for the person who writes it as their audience. And possibly. I mean, this is one thing I wanted to mention while we're discussing this, I guess. Do you think it's possible that these debunkers are not are you think that these debunkers are like some sort of like they're trying to muddle the waters about knowledge on information, trying to make it seem like aliens are, all fake and that sort of thing, like they're like a paid off conspiracy shill of some sort.
It could be. I mean, it's very possible that maybe some of these, now I wouldn't, I don't know who, are actually, they're actually enlightened beyond what they appear to be enlightened about. And like maybe, so for instance, maybe, some of them could be working for the government to try to make, there's an active, I don't see why though. At this point, I don't see why.
Hold on now. I have a few theories why the
Okay.
government would probably want. I think that it is likely that the government would try to hide and cover up aliens. You know?
Oh yeah, there's no question. I mean, I'm definitely the government they've been lying about this since 1947. There's no doubt in my mind. Anybody that's done the research on this would know this. I mean, now you have not read all the books that I've read. I've talked to you about, so I've told you about some of the things, right? Of all the research that I've done, definitely there's no question. There's no doubt that the government has covered this up for 75 years now. The phenomenon, of course, is a lot older than that, but again, it really didn't become a big thing until 1947. There was a big UFO flap, 47, where people started seeing flying saucers all over the place, and that has brought us all the way to today. There was a concerted effort beginning in the 1950s to basically stigmatize the entire UFO issue by the government, by the way. And now, over the past 5 years, it seems like there's been an effort to destigmatize it. Why? I don't know why that started. Was it I'm not going to get into that right now. That's for I've talked about this before. I'm not going to get into that right now. But anyway, there is some. But I think since that happened, a lot of the debunkers have been going crazy, right? Because for years, for decades, the government was always on their side, right? Now all of a sudden that the script is flipped, because now the Pentagon's saying, yeah, there's objects out there, we can't explain them. That's a new one. What? I thought you said all these people were nuts, So that's all changed now. But again, there are still the audience out there that needs the story. It needs to be told that, hey, nothing to worry about here.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think that there's some people that might be the case for, but I think more likely it's just. I mean, it's still possible that the government is, government or governments or some sort of other whatever, what have you, deep state, unknowable, deep state, secret shadow government cult, or whatever, tries to still to this day, either through paying off certain scientists and writers and that sort of thing, or for other methods, try to, write disparaging articles about people that attempt to prove the existence of aliens.
Yeah, I mean I definitely think that was a case. Well, they have to remember now. Operation. Okay, I believe that there's a control group within the government. I don't believe everybody in the government. I believe 99.97% of the Pentagon doesn't know about they don't have any access to the data with regard to UFOs. They don't have the need to know. I believe it's a very small faction within the government. It's probably, I believe the name of it was at least called Majestic 12 in the 40s and 50s. And, is it still called Majestic 12? Who knows what the name is today, but for the sake of argument, we'll say it is still MJ 12. I believe that there is that control group that does have the power when it comes to the study of UFOs, or anything that happens with regard to extraterrestrial crashes or major extraterrestrial incidents. That control group takes control of the situation and keeps it covered up from the public. And I believe that's been going on for decades, since I believe Roswell was the first thing that they covered up. And I think it's been that's why there was some leaks in that one, because that was the first one. Now after that, they got better and better over the years, and that's really hard. It's really hard for anyone. Only people with an absolute need to get to know what's going on with that. And that's why the secret has been well kept within the government for all these years. And actually, there are cracks in it. Every now and then you get a document that gets leaked, or you get, look at the last 5 years. Again, the Pentagon started coming clean a little bit, saying, yeah, we've been looking at this stuff, and we don't know what it is since 2004. Now they're starting off at 2004, pretending that all the stuff that happened all those decades before, it never happened. But yeah, since 2004, yeah, there's been objects, we can't explain them. here's the reports. Here's 140 reports. We don't know. You figure it out. So, but now again, the main thing here is like, I believe that there are, that's why we're seeing this disclosure is a slow one, because the government realizes that for some people it's just going to be too hard to digest. They need to be told, they need to be brought in slowly. It needs to be, brought in, over time, and that's why, because it's just going to be too much for, if you're all of a sudden, yep, there's aliens. What? They don't want that. It'll be too scary, too much of a, so they're doing a slowly. They're trying to get you to accept and start thinking about a little bit. And that will go on for a few years. And then at some point they'll release a little bit more information and bring it a little bit, get you a little closer to the truth. And then finally drop the big one. Yep, it's real. But right now, because there are people out there who are afraid, that's why there's an audience for these debunkers, and that's why these debunkers write these articles, regardless of what the purpose is or what drives the debunker themselves. Well, regardless of that, there's a need for their work, because there's people out there that just can't accept this right now. It's just my problem, like I said before, is that I don't like the way they proceed and how they do this, how they attack other scientists, which basically rub their face in the mud. It's just a terrible way of doing it. Maybe there's a better, nicer way of debunking these things, rather than the arrogant and rotten way that they usually do it. And in fact, there was a couple of articles that I just did podcasts about, where I talked about two separate pieces that really, and two different scientists, two different debunkers. I didn't like what happened there. And I hate when it happens. It needs to be pointed out.
Yeah. The defaming and shaming and name calling of any sort of other scientific researcher just because they have different points of view on fringe topics. I mean, that sort of mudslinging has been going on, since the dawning of, since the dawning of arguments, since the dawning of debates between two different positions.